one of the leading negotiators for detained Americans who usually works in the shadows, has now stepped into the limelight.
Mickey Bergman.
Mickey Bergman.
Mickey Bergman
is a former IDF combat officer, and for the past 20 years, he's traveled the world as a private citizen, working to free Americans held unjustly overseas.
My work doesn't impact millions of people. It doesn't impact hundreds of thousands of people. But the people that it does impact, when it works, when the US government engages in with a government like Russia or Venezuela or indirectly with Iran, as soon as the American and the Russians get into a room to discuss, even if they plan on discussing a prisoner issue, immediately the issue of Ukraine comes into play, nuclear stability, and that is really, really tough because even though I'm sitting there, if I were a diplomat and I would hear all this criticism, I would have to protest, I would have to step outside and storm away. But because I'm not, I actually take it in. I actually get a first narrative of how they see the world, and that helps me. We don't have any authority and any mandate on policy issues. But we have emotional intelligence, we have ongoing relationships. These are relationships that we invest in over time before there's crisis. We do engagement in a lot of these countries, specifically the countries that the United States has a problem with. We found ourselves, Governor Richardson and myself, in the Red Square in Moscow the day Putin announced the special invasion into Ukraine. And we came back with a proposition from that of how to bring both Paul Whelan and Trevor Reed back home. What ended up being was a choice to do Trevor Reed. He was not well, and there was urgency in that, and he came home. We succeeded in that. Immediately after he came back, Brittany Griner's wife, Sherelle, and her agent called us and asked us for help. We ended up going back to Moscow, soliciting a proposal, and then having a very frustrating attempt with the White House to bring this to a conclusion. We were there in September, Brittany came back in December, so it took that much time to actually get it. And again, we failed with doing Paul Whelan and Brittany Griner. We ended up just with Brittany Griner. Paul Whelan is still sitting there. You might call me an optimist, but I believe that after November, no matter what the election results are in this country, there will be a period of opportunity to negotiate for his release. And it's funny, by the way, Nick, I very rarely know the prisoner, only after they come back, but I know their family. Their family becomes part of my family. The same empathy that I apply to the captors when I do these negotiations, that's my MO. I apply the same thing with the family. Every time I spend time with them, meeting with them or on the phone, I take on that pain for myself because that's what motivates me. So it's very, very personal work.
Mickey Bergman, the book is called In the Shadows, True Stories of High-Stakes Negotiations to Free Americans Captured Abroad. Thanks very much.